Ah, beautiful young rich people living like there's no consequence. Kitz is the new German dramatic mystery series on Netflix. So grab your skis and your champagne and let's dive in. A year after the tragic death of her brother, Lizzie enters the decadent world of a Munich clique, which invades the luxury ski resort where she lives every season to party. But soon Lizzie sets off in an avalanche that reveals the truth behind the facade full of glamour, money, and hedonism, with uncontrollable consequences. This series does something that I'm not always a fan of. It begins by showing us what could be the end. By doing that, I instantly know where this is headed, which can help to build up some anticipation, but also reduces some tension because I know what to expect. The series focuses on Lizzie, a young woman whose brother Joe died tragically a year prior. He was on his way to see one of the rich celebrity types who he had sort of a relationship with, and she was named Vanessa. She winters in the town, and when Joe is heading up to see her, he's upset and a bit frantic, swerving on an icy road in the middle of the night. Now, we see this in the very opening scene of the show. When we catch up with Lizzie a year later, she's crafted some sort of revenge plan against Vanessa, whom she holds responsible for her brother's death. And now the series follows Lizzie and all of her schemes to exact this revenge. The show feels like we've seen this story before. I mean, we've got this protagonist who may actually be an antagonist, and they're working their way through situations in order to get close to their target. Now, the rich people are hard to connect with because they live in a whole different stratosphere, which I think helps in getting the audience to be on Lizzie's side and then sympathize with her more. The characters themselves are all pretty spoiled, and this includes Lizzie, because they all seem to operate like they're the center of the universe. And this can make for some very enjoyable conflict because sharing the spotlight is hard for many of them, so drama ensues as they each vie for dominance. The season is 6 episodes that are each about 40 minutes long, and it's a pretty quick binge, but there does seem to be a lot of this 2 steps forward, 1 step back, as schemes get underway and then of course something goes awry, so people have to pivot with their nefarious plans. Other portions do feel very convenient as well. As part of the storytelling device, Lizzie needs to be able to accomplish certain actions and establish key relationships, and the ease at which she does this is just a little too advantageous. But for the sake of the story, I mean, it's easy to go along with them. And the drama is quite high in parts, verging on the melodramatic with certain relationships and outbursts. But we can also say, well, you know what, they're just spoiled rich kids, and that explains the behaviors, and that makes them then acceptable and watchable for the show. I think the series introduces a lot of character complications into the story as well, just in an attempt to make some more sympathetic. And this works to a degree, but it also runs the risk of being a distraction because these storylines don't always lead to anywhere productive that moves the story ahead in meaningful ways. I like how some characters start off as rather off-putting, but experience growth, making them much more sympathetic as the show goes along. I mean, you still may not totally like them, but to watch someone try to improve and learn from mistakes is something that I very much appreciate. And then there are others that may have started out as very charismatic, but by the end of the show, you just can't stand. And I like that the actors are able to create characters like this that feel a bit more dynamic. I mean, even though they start out feeling like they could be flat and cookie cutter. I also like the mystery aspect of this, despite believing that I knew where it was going. I certainly knew one outcome just based on the opening sequence of the show, but there are a few other things that remain somewhat hidden for longer. I do think, though, that the final outcome and the resolution will become obvious well before it actually arrives, which can make some of those final episodes and sequences feel a little bit longer than they actually are. Now, because this is a German series, as a special treat for those of us that are fans of Dark, Andreas Pietschmann, who plays the older Jonas in that series, he has a small role in Kitz. I mean, he's not a major figure or even an on-screen very much, but I thought it was great to see him. The setting for this is beautiful to look at. While we're not up on the mountains too often in the series, there are multiple establishing shots that show the grandeur of just the resort valley and then the village that's there. The chalets and winding mountain roads help to show what a beautiful location this is, making it very easy to see why the rich and powerful would even want to spend their time there. When the camera focuses on our characters, we get some really good intimate shots that help to convey the emotions that are captured in the characters' eyes. And sometimes the scenes are chaotic too, but the camera does a good job of not being too close to what's going on so that we get context and take the scene in as a whole, which then also helps us to feel the chaos. Now, while this show does hedge on being an angsty drama, I think some of the mystery helps to keep it at bay, at least a little bit. Now, something I do have to address is with a character named Kosh, And it has nothing to do with his performance or even the character himself, but they've chosen to have him wear a mustache. And I think it looks just a bit odd because he has these very bushy eyebrows. And it's not his eyebrows that are weird, it's just the combo of the bushy eyebrows with a bushy mustache. I mean, it just looks like his lip has another set of eyebrows. This made me laugh at first and was mildly distracting, but I did get used to them. It also helps that he's a character that experiences a great deal of growth over the show, making him one that I rooted for. Now, I am not absolutely in love with all of the events that transpire within the characters at the end of the show. And while some of them do get what they deserve, others clearly don't, making it a very mixed bag of satisfaction. I'm glad we get a resolution, but it's not the full resolution that I was hoping for. So overall, Kitz is a decent revenge mystery with some characters that show wonderful growth. And the story is very familiar with a lot of plot conveniences thrown in to allow the story to progress efficiently. Some sequences do feel repetitive and the drama can get quite high at times, but the visuals are great at creating engaging scenarios and placing us into the world of the rich and unconcerned. There's sex, nudity, a ton of profanity, and some violence. I give Kitz 3 out of 5 couches. Have you seen any good mystery or revenge shows lately? I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.